We good? Sorry. I'm seeing if it will come up. So, welcome back to my Facebook page. So, actually, welcome back to wherever you are watching my Facebook page. I'm Lisa Robertson, and tonight for our live video chat, my good friend Sue Milburn is joining us. How are you? So good seeing you.
Thank you. You too.
So, I had some interesting things going on the last couple of years, and at one point in my life, I was just overwhelmed. And I felt that there was more than I could deal with, and I couldn't breathe, and sleep wasn't happening, and I really felt that I needed to go talk to someone. And what made that a more challenging decision for me was that I felt that there was kind of a stigma about that, and I wasn't sure if people were going to think less of me or think that I was, a little out of the normal realm of behavior or needs or whatever it happened to be. And so I struggled with something that once I started going, I realized should have been a no-brainer. It was very helpful. It wasn't a magic wand, it wasn't a magic pill. It was very helpful to have someone to go talk to. So tonight I wanted Sue to come join us because Sue is who I went to talk to for a while in my life, and she was very, very helpful to me. And once I started into that journey and into that process and started talking to friends of mine, because obviously, when you go and you tell your close friends,
Right.
then I started realizing how many of my friends were going or had gone, at certain points when there were things in their life that they needed to work on or deal with or talk to someone about. And I thought, how is it that none of us are talking about this? How is it that, when it's a decision that you need to make, you shouldn't have to worry about it. And you should know that this is something that people are doing every day. And then it can be really helpful. And so Sue, who has been very helpful to me, has agreed to join us for this hour. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of her credentials so you know that her qualifications are more than just being a friend of mine. So,
And that's an important part.
Right, that would qualify her enough.
Right.
But we became friends because I was going to her, and one of the reasons I was going to her was she was recommended to me by a good friend of mine. Mm-hmm. So Sue has, she obtained a BA from Queen's University in Psychology and Philosophy. She has her MS from Villanova University in Counseling Psychology. She did postgraduate training at the Marriage Council, which was then part of U of Penn. She has certification in both child-focused family therapy and marital, family, and sex therapy. She's certified as an EMDR therapist since 2004. She is a clinical member of and an approved supervisor for the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapists. She has been in practice since 1994, and she's licensed as a marriage and family therapist. Right. So you have worked with a lot of couples.
Right.
You've worked with a lot of individuals.
Right.
And one of your specialties is actually trauma. Mm-hmm. So you've kind of had a very broad experience when it comes to helping people through tough times.
Absolutely. Trauma happens in all kinds of ways. There are big T traumas and there are little T traumas. Big T traumas are things like 9/11, house burning down, death of a loved one, car accident, rapes, mugging, all kinds of big traumas. And small T traumas can be sort of like drip torture. Small hurts over time, like if you're raised with a parent who criticizes you on a frequent basis, those are small T traumas that also impact you in your life.
Right.
Traumas are coded in the brain in a specific way that sometimes doesn't get resolved. So doing some particular therapy helps resolve the trauma so it's not in the way anymore, because old traumas, even years and years and years ago, can still impact us in our day-to-day life today. And it impacts couples if one person has had traumas and it gets in the way of their communication, impacts individuals, right?
So
families.
One of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight was I just kind of made up a list off the top of my head at one point of questions. And these are the kinds of questions I had before I decided to go talk to someone, or when I was making the decision to go talk to someone, because it wasn't something I knew anything about. And so I think that, if you're thinking about it, if it's at all on your radar, then these might be some questions that you have as well. I just want to say in the very beginning of this 1 hour chat that this is not about diagnosing or anyone's specific issues or anything like that. This is going to be common sense information on the field in general,
Right.
things that'll be helpful to you to kind of help you know if it's something you might consider or might benefit from in some way. And I know that there's going to be a lot we cover in the hour. So we're going to start off with some basic things like, what is a therapist, and what is the difference between a therapist and a counselor and a psychologist and a psychiatrist and a life coach? Because there's a lot of different things.
There really are, and it's very confusing. You're right. Psychiatrists are MDs, so they are people who can prescribe medications. Psychologists are people who have a doctorate, and they do counseling or therapy. They also do testing often, evaluations. And then there are a lot of master level people like marriage and family therapists, clinical social workers, art therapists, music therapists, professional counselors, licensed professional counselors. So the training is a little bit different for each one. And life coach, I looked up because I really wasn't sure about, what the requirement is and the training. And I saw online, there's a 6-week training, there's a 5-day intense training. I don't believe it's a licensed profession in Pennsylvania. It is a certification.
Okay.
And the focus is different. And a friend of mine, I was talking about doing this tonight, and she said, make sure you say it's not therapy. It's helping people kind of navigate maybe a job search or something like that.
Right.
But the training is very different.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is, what are some of the issues that people seek therapy for? Because I think sometimes you're kind of going, well, I'm struggling with this, or I'm concerned about this. Is this kind of something that, what are the kinds of things that people typically seek therapy for?
Well, when you're not feeling yourself,
Yeah.
you're not feeling your best self. You're not managing things the way you would like to and have in the past and know you can again, but there's something stuck. So there can be relationship issues, there can be transitions in your life, empty nest, new baby, new job, all kinds of transitions. Losses, certainly. Major losses are hard, and if you find yourself still in a prolonged grief after a year, maybe a year and a half, then it's probably a good idea to get some help to see if you can move a little bit. You're never really over it, but to move through it in a way that allows you to function better. Let me think, I wrote some down. Anxiety, depression, trauma, phobia. Had a lot of people
phobia. So, and that's one of the things that one of the gentlemen on my page was talking about. He said that he, has kind of developed a fear of flying, and there were a number of different things there. But if there's something that's holding you back, some kind of phobia or fear that's holding you back, then
Absolutely.
That's the kind of thing that you might want to.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've had people come in because they can't drive across a bridge. So it's very impactful. If you can't fly, you can't drive where you want to go without going all kinds of circular ways, right? There are ways to help people with that, and that would be a very good reason to come in.
Yeah, because I do think that in a lot of cases you just think, well, that's just the way it is, and there's nothing I can do, and, but
that's not true.
That's not true.
Right.
There are things
there
that
are
you
things
can do.
You can do.
Definitely. I'm just going to make sure, I'm going to kind of get into this video, which I wasn't into before, so I can see everyone on the side. CJ, hi, Melissa. You know what? I just want to double check on Sue's audio. Can you hear her as clearly as you hear me? I do think, by the way, that Sue just has a softer voice, and I am kind of like a barreling freight train. So she's probably going to sound a little softer than I do because I tend to bellow.
I'll talk louder if you'd like.
There you go. Because sometimes part of it is what device you're listening through.
Okay,
so if you're listening to it on a phone that's an older phone, doesn't have a good speaker system, in a lot of cases it's very helpful if you put your earbuds in and plug it into your phone if you're listening to it on that. If you're listening to it on a computer, then you can hear it a lot better.
Right.
Okay. So the joys of social media as it evolves, and we all learn. Hi, Rebecca. Hi, Jan. Jan was saying, how do you know her? I think that's from a little bit ago, because I think we covered that. I went to Sue for counseling for a while, and she was very, very helpful to me. So since she was a help to me, I felt that she could be a help to you. Patrice, hi. Keith, hello. Pam, hi. Rebecca said, thank you for the chat. Rebecca, I'm so glad that you're liking it. And Diane said her audio was fine. There you go. Vicky said she can hear both of us. Excellent. Vicky, you won't have to yell.
You,
Vicky said it's fine.
Okay, good.
Fawn said it's fine. Okay. There you go. Oh, hi, Frank. So those are some of the things that people typically kind of come to counseling for,
Right.
which I think is a very, very important concept, obviously. And you know what? Katie, can you do me a favor and find my watch? Because I just realized that I don't. Can I borrow yours?
Sure.
And just hold it so I'm not checking it the whole time. Normally,
You
I
have to
hold the watch in front of me.
Lift it up, though, each time.
Oh, that's
Right.
perfect. Thank
Okay.
you. It was so nice. This is
One
a really
thing
nice
I forgot,
chat.
too, is,
I messed it up.
oh, okay, let me see.
I hit something.
There
One
we
thing
go.
you forgot, sorry.
Is finding that you're more reactive, that, you know, you're more angry than you used to be, or you don't have a way of kind of managing yourself in different situations. So that's a really good way to come in, reason
Right.
to come in.
So if you just feel like, wow, I'm flying off the handle,
Exactly.
or I'm just not dealing with things,
Right.
you know, it can affect you at work, it can affect your relationship, it can
Home.
affect you with your kids, it can affect
Your
that
health.
kind of thing. Yeah,
And your health.
it can affect your health. So let's say that you're in one of the things we talked about, and then you say, okay, I want to go talk to someone. How do you find someone to talk to? I mean, I started talking to you because I had a friend who knew I was going through a tough time, and she was talking to you, and she said, hey, you have to go talk, you got to talk to Sue. She's been great. So, but how do you, what are the good ways to find someone?
So that's one, and that's a really, I think that's the best one, is a friend's recommendation, because they know, and they know you, and they know what the therapist is like. But if you don't have that, and it's something that you don't feel comfortable asking about, then I would go to my doctor, my general practitioner, or gynecologist, or whatever specialty person you trust and know. They often have a list of therapists. Clergy, rabbis, ministers, they have lists of people that they trust. And also, you can go online and you can look for American Psychological Association, American Association of Marriage and Family Therapy. The EMDR website is EMDRIA, and that's people who do trauma work, but they also, like me, do everything else.
What is EMDR, by the way?
Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And
Okay.
it's a treatment for trauma that's been around since '94.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, and I thought that was excellent, because I think sometimes if you're not sure who to ask, you don't know someone
Right.
to ask, then I loved your concept of asking, you know, clergy, healthcare professionals, people
Right.
who might have.
Maybe even school psychology or school counselors. They
Oh, yeah, they
also
probably
know
know,
other
yeah.
people.
That'd be a good idea. So once you go to, so then you find someone,
Right?
and you go talk to them a few times. How do you know if it's a good fit? Because I've heard people say, "Oh, I was going to this person, I didn't feel it was a good fit, so I started going to another person." But how do you know if it's? I mean, I realize that's subjective.
Yeah, I mean, I think you know if you feel respected, you know if you feel comfortable, you know if somebody cares, if they have skills, they know a way of thinking about things that kind of broadens the focus. So it's not just this one issue that you've come in with, but it, you know, in the greater scheme of things in your whole life, you begin to see things in a little bit different way. So if you're not getting any sense that somebody knows you, kind of gets where you're coming from, respects you, cares about you, is wanting you to be comfortable,
Yeah.
then I would go someplace else.
Right. And what is your job? I mean, and I'm grouping in everyone who goes to extensive educational lengths to be certified to be a therapist in one form or another. But what is the job of a therapist when someone comes to you? How do you describe what your job is?
It's interesting. I was thinking about this today. A friend of mine years and years ago said the therapist's job is to provide the structure and the hope. The client's job is to provide the motivation. So I can't want things for you more than you want things for you, right? But it's my job to say, I believe it's going to be better. I have a way of thinking about that. And I have a structure for helping us get there.
Right.
So I think in a nutshell, that's pretty much it, right?
Right.
Being there, being up on whatever new ways of helping people are. I mean, to keep my license, I have 24 hours every 2 years of CEUs. So I'm always going and reading and learning and wanting to stay current. So that's my job.
Because it is one of those things where I think in a lot of cases, if you've never gone to talk to someone, then you don't really know what to expect. Because I think in some cases, people are going to go to therapy and they're going to have an unrealistic expectation. So what do you think are some of the misconceptions about what people think a therapist does?
Tell you what to do.
Because that'd be so nice. That's what I was hoping for.
Wave a magic wand, maybe.
Do this, it'll be fine.
Somebody years ago brought me a magic wand.
Did they? Go.
I still have it in my office, but I kind of don't know what to do with it. I think those are misconceptions, that someone's going to give you a path, a way of doing things, a prescription, and that's not my job. Really, my job is to help you find your wisdom, not you, but anybody, right? And navigate in the way that's best for you.
Because I do think in so many cases, when you get to a point where you want to go talk to someone, you're just so completely not really functioning your best.
Overwhelmed, right.
That actually to have someone tell you what to do would be really nice. But that's not the way it works. Just to let you know, if any of you are wondering that. All right. Oh, very quickly, I'm just going to double check because my video is frozen. We're good. We'll go back into it. All right. Well, by the way, I want to say hi to Michelle. Michelle is very sweet. She said, amazing. She said, Lisa has it all. That's a very kind perception, not always the case. And still needs someone to talk to. Very true. She said, good to know. Oh. And I think that, it is good to know, because I don't think anyone's life is as simple as it looks. Yours isn't. Yours isn't. I think when you see someone else's life through social media, it's almost like seeing the pictures from the family vacation. You just see the great moments where everybody smiled for a minute.
It's really true.
And then they go back to real life. And their kids are fighting. And the air conditioner went out when it was 100 degrees. And the car's on the fritz. And they can't afford to get a new one right now. And you know what? They're really on each other's nerves. And I always joke and say that Brad and Angelina have a lot of the same issues everyone else does. They're just a lot prettier while they do it. But they still, there's still two people in a relationship, in a marriage, with kids and work, and they still get on each other's nerves. And I'm sure that there are times when each of them looks at the other most beautiful person in the world and says, how in the world did I end up here? And everyone has those moments. And I don't think anyone's life is as simple as it looks. So I think it's one of those things where,
you're absolutely right.
Even if your life is going great, it doesn't mean that there isn't something that you wouldn't like to have go better. And maybe that's what you want to go talk to someone about. Maybe it's not that, oh my gosh, it's all falling apart. Maybe it's not that, oh my gosh, I'm being crushed. Maybe it's that, hey, you know what? Things are going pretty great right now. And while I have room to move, I'd like to work on this area. So I think there are a lot of reasons that you might want to go talk to someone. And I think, if you find someone who is a good match for you and you are on the same page, that it can really, really, really be helpful for a lot of reasons. I found for me, one of the main things that was helpful was that there was a place where I could go and I could say anything to Sue, because Sue is not someone that I had a relationship with. Right. So I wasn't risking a friendship or a family relationship or a work relationship or anything else on her misunderstanding something or me not expressing it well. Or And in some cases, when everything just comes down on you, and I felt like, have you ever watched one of those magic tricks where the person can contort themselves into a tiny little glass box, and you just go, how in the world did they, it's just all person, there's no room to move. That's how I felt.
Oh, yeah.
And just having somewhere where I could
great
go
image.
and talk, just tell someone everything, then I felt like, okay, I have a little room to move. And that helped me get through and think things through and work with things. So I think, again, there can be a lot of reasons and there can be a lot of benefits if you find the right person. And I just would want, if it's something that would be helpful to you, I want you to have information that will make it easy for you to do that. I'm not saying everyone should go get therapy. I'm just saying, you know what? For some people it would be really good. And
Right.
if it is, then I hope this
Yep.
is helpful. All right. One of the other things, very quick, okay. So one of the other things I think people ask about a lot, or I wonder about, is how long? Some people go, well, let's see, I think some people think they're going to be out in one session, and some people think they're going to be in for the rest of their lives. So what's a reasonable expectation of time? I mean, I know
Probably a
that's,
year or less.
yeah,
It just depends. Sometimes one thing kind of gets resolved, and then you think, well, maybe there's something else I'd like to work on as long as I
Right.
know you and I'm here, and right.
Yeah.
So another thing kind of gets worked on, and then some people will stop and then come back after a year or two and say, I need a little fix or a little, kind
Yeah.
of touch up.
right,
Right.
yeah,
But I think a year is a very average amount of time. Not everybody needs that much, and some people need a bit more. But when you're done.
right. Because one of the things that I asked Sue at one point was, I felt like I would continue to go and just kind of have the same issues every time. And so I said, how do you not become frustrated with me or someone else who comes in here consistently and isn't really making progress? Because I would not be a good therapist, because I would be like, really? It's been 3 months. This is the same discussion we had the first time that you came in here, and it's making me kind of nutty. But Sue never said that to me. So
I never felt that. I never even thought it. So you did it again.
I messed up your watch again. I'm going to have to give that back. Katie, can you do me a huge favor and just find a watch that works that I can hold in my hand so I can see what time it is? Because I keep messing up.
Just
Thank you.
hold it. Not. Yeah, there you go.
There you go. I'm just going to set it right down, and it's all going to be good. What are some of the things that people do you think, that keep them from getting results if they go to therapy?
When you asked me that the first time, I was thinking more structurally, like they don't come. Like
Well,
they cancel or late and don't have the full amount of time. And the more I thought about it, I really think it's about fear. It's
Yeah.
about being afraid to sort of sit with whatever it is that's going on, and it's never as bad as you think.
Right.
That's my experience anyway. And having a compassionate witness is a good thing. So I think people do what they need to do. We're all doing the best we can. And everything comes out when it's ready, and when people feel safe enough and supported enough, and the other parts of their lives are maybe in place enough to be able to deal with deeper things.
right.
Does that make sense?
That does make a lot of sense. So by the way, so Lori Walter is on our page all the time, and she was saying that her reception is a little wonky. And I'm looking at my signal on mine, and it's fine here. So
Okay.
in a lot of cases, again, that's going to depend on where you are when you're watching and how strong your signal is. So if you're on Wi-Fi and it's not a strong Wi-Fi signal, then don't forget that after these chats, they stay on my Facebook page, and you can always go back and watch them. And I know that a lot of you do, because Facebook keeps track of how many people watch them, and you can see the numbers go up afterwards, because not everyone can be here and at the
Right.
same time, and sometimes it's just nice to.
And I keep forgetting to talk louder, so I'll try. if that
I think
matters.
it's all fine. By the way, Dana said, "You're in the right profession, Sue. Sounds like you are very compassionate." I will vouch for her. Yes, she is.
Oh, thank you, Dana. That's very kind.
And Vicky liked the advice that you said, which is we're all doing the best we can, which is very true.
True. I think we are.
I think you can't ever judge someone else by what you think you would do in that situation. Thank you so much, Katie. All right. Is this, and it's on the right time, you said it? You're so good. After meeting Katie, you realize why she's my brain.
I do. Yeah.
You know.
Everyone should have a Katie.
I know. I didn't just hire her because she has great hair. No. I hired her because she's my brain. So again, I have to say, if you're having issues with the sound, most people are fine. So I think it could be the device that you're listening through. Mary said she put earbuds in. I hope that helps. And sometimes it does freeze, and I apologize for that because right now mine's freezing up as well. So that's something we're going to work on, and I'm not really sure why, because we have a really, really strong Wi-Fi signal in this house. There's an app where you can actually measure the strength of your Wi-Fi signal.
Oh, okay.
By the way, we should do a little post on that in case anybody wants to do that, right, Katie? Just because it's a very, very helpful. All right. I want to say again, so Frank is with us again, Stephen. Hi, Stephen. Stephen, this is Sue.
Hi, Stephen.
Because he said, I forgot her name. Stephen, this is Sue. Margaret's here. Brenda's here. She said it's breaking up. I do think that, unfortunately, it's part of the emerging medium that we're dealing with, that there is still some freezing. But bear with us. If for any reason it cuts it off completely, then we'll just start a new chat. And we've had to do that a few times, too, especially when we were on location in Los Angeles. And, but it was very, very tough there. So, a couple of people have been saying things like, going through a divorce and it's tough and there's a lot of anxiety. That has to be one of the most common reasons.
It is. Oh my golly, it's terrible. Yeah. And taking apart what you put together, had a lot of years putting it together. When you talked about the stigma and your fear of coming in, I think when people are divorcing and if there are children involved, often either parent is reluctant to come and get therapy because they're afraid that it would be used against them. And it really is just the opposite. The courts look very favorably toward people who take care of themselves, get help so they can navigate these very rough waters or as well as possible. Yeah, and especially for the kids. So it's a wonderful reason to come in, and both people need their own therapist, or one therapist sometimes can help each one of them and help them part well. That is just, it's a tough thing. And when you look at statistically how many people obviously go through divorces, what do most couples fight about? Like what kind of category? Is there a specific, is it money? Is it raising kids? Is it... Oh, golly, Lisa.
I know it's a little bit of everything. But...
yeah, money, sex, working too hard, not enough time, raising the kids. The thing that really gets people in trouble, and the research is very clear on this, it's not the issues that we come into the marriage with or that we fight about, but it's the way we communicate all along. So couples who have good sex, shared interests, common background, shared hobbies, etc., but can't communicate well and can't resolve conflict are in trouble, even if they have all of those things in common. So helping people learn how to communicate clearly and effectively and respectfully is really, really important for couples. So that's more important than any issue.
Okay, when I think about all the classes I took when I was in school, I just think, especially high school, would have been a really great time.
You bet.
To have a class on how to resolve conflict in a relationship. And that, that might be a relationship in the workplace, that might be a romantic relationship, but I do think it's something we aren't really taught.
Not so much.
You observe your parents and you learn a degree from that.
Right.
But if they're not really great at it and stepping you through what their thought process is, then you go out into the world and you're really kind of going, oh gosh, I have no idea how to do this. And then the way that they react, the way that they act, you react differently to than how they intended, because they resolve conflict completely differently. And it's just one of those things you think, wouldn't it be easier if we were all... I believe that from now on in school, they should teach how to take care of your own finances and how to resolve conflict. Wouldn't that be a different world? And
I would vote for that in a heartbeat.
a number of years where nobody got out and started acting like more of an adult than we are. But what do you think are some of the things that people should go to talk to a therapist about more often than they do? What do you think? Are there things that you think people could benefit from that they just don't think about going?
There are a lot of relationship struggles that families sort of sit on for a long time. Adult children coming back and living near parents is sometimes a wonderful thing, and sometimes it's fraught with a lot of dissension and frustration and expectations on both sides that it's going to be someplace, some way that it's really not. I think people sort of sit on low energy and not really being their best self for a long time before they come in. And I it's a shame that this is probably very helpful for people to give them some encouragement to go sooner if they're feeling these things. So you asked me what people are not coming in for that you think,
Because you mentioned family, and I think in a lot of cases, if you're experiencing trouble with your marriage, then you logically think, hey, maybe we should go get counseling. But if you're experiencing trouble with your mother-in-law, you might not think, hey, maybe I should go get counseling.
Very true.
I mean, I just think we kind of figure the family dynamic is what it is, and you just kind of suffer through it, as opposed to maybe if you went and talked to someone about that, they could give you the confidence or the tools or something to help you make that interaction a little bit better. Because obviously whatever you're doing right now and they're doing right now isn't really working for both of you right now.
And you both would like it better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And would like to be connected. I think we all want that kind of connection and to be known. And we get kind of dug in patterns that are not in our best interest. So,
yeah, near and dear to our hearts, though.
Yep.
Really familiar.
Habits are hard to break, but I can't think of I see people who come in, so to think about who should be coming and isn't, I hadn't really thought about that.
Well, because also I think I would assume. I always think that so much of how we react to someone else is just as much or more about where we're coming from than it is about where they're coming from.
Yep.
So I would imagine that in a lot of cases, if someone comes in and says, hey, I'm struggling with my relationship with this person, and they start breaking it down, then I have to think that in a lot of ways, one of the big ahas would be, oh, I'm the one who's taking it that way. Oh, I read that. Why did I take it that way?
What's that about for me?
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. What's that about for me? And how did that, like if 100 people had heard that same comment, would all 100 of them had the same reaction? So it's a useful thing to be able to kind of judge whether it's really about you, and then you get curious, right?
Right.
Like it's really interesting to figure out what it is that gets you stirred up and what doesn't. So you can help begin to manage that internal distress.
Right.
And that's really, I think, the goal of any good therapy is greater self-compassion. So we're kinder to ourselves, we're curious about ourselves, we try to look at the bigger picture and understand what it's about for us. Then we're much more able to manage discourse and a dialogue that doesn't kind of go the way we want it to.
Right.
Right?
It does seem like we live in a society that is de-evolving on the human interaction scale, and it doesn't seem to be unacceptable to say anything to anyone in any situation in any environment in front of any other people. I mean, there just doesn't seem to be anything that is considered out of bounds, and I think that
sadly,
I do think that is unfortunate for everyone.
Yeah.
I don't think that it helps anyone. I don't think anyone walks away feeling better. But I also think that there are times where if you're the one in that, and whether you started it because you flew off the handle or whether someone else came at you and you reacted in kind, it really makes you think, well, why did I if you can't control what the other person does, which you can't. Be nice if you could, but you can't. They are out of your control and they are their own deal. So if you can't control what they do, I think controlling the way that we react, because sometimes I think too, we just think, we don't think about the fact that we could change our reaction to something. Because you just think, well, I'm completely justified and blah, blah, blah. And you're going, you could.
You could do it differently.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's a tough one.
It is a tough one. And, the interesting thing about it, I think, is when you do manage something differently, you feel so good about yourself. Like, ooh, did you hear that? I didn't yell. I didn't, you know, come back with the sarcasm. I didn't hurt him or her. I really kind of held on to myself, and it feels great.
Yeah.
So, it's a wonderful growth. It really is.
And I do think it's one of the things that, again, if there's something that you're doing, then you need to look at it and think, why am I doing that? Why am I perceiving it that way? Why do I always hear that tone of voice when that probably might not have been the tone of voice they intended, but the tone of voice in my head is always that tone of voice. So to me, everything sounds like that tone of voice. Then I respond like that's what they were saying. So I do think that there are a lot of things that come up in our everyday lives. And I also think that in a lot of ways, I think that we have a society that tends to just reach for something that helps you feel better in the short term.
That's true.
And there are a lot of different things that do that. Some of them can lead to addictions. Some of them are just things that are comforting, and we all know that we all know comfort food. I know that's what I go to. Right. Depending on the type of stress, I eat not at all, or I eat only bad things. Those are the two ways that it can affect me dramatically. So sometimes I think we continue to do something that just helps us get through, as opposed to really, hey, maybe if I went and got some help with this, then I could find a way to truly rise above it and move on, as opposed to just staying here and kind of
spinning in that same wheel.
Yeah.
Right. And again, self-compassion, right? So if I can figure out what it is that I'm longing for, needing, missing, where did that come from? How can I give it to myself in some other way that's kinder to me, really? In the long run, kinder than cake, right?
Well, nothing's kinder than ice cream, but feel free. No.
True.
And
both,
and occasionally
maybe.
Is fine, but 3 times a day is probably maybe an indication.
Yeah, not so kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So there are ways of looking at it that bring a little bit more clarity, I think, and being in the presence of somebody who, you were talking about friends. The relationship with client and therapist is not friends. If you're the client, come in with the issues that you come in with, and I am helping you look at it. It's not like you share, then I share, then you share, then I share.
No.
Right? That's a friendship, right? But this is not. So we're both trying to see if there are other ways of looking at what's happening that might be better for you, right? And kinder for you, and a kinder way to look at yourself. Because one thing I do hear an awful lot is people whose internal self-talk is all negative. Yeah. Like, why did you do that? I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you're so stupid. Why did you say that? All day long. Nobody does better when they feel bad. And if I heard
that should be on a t-shirt.
It's true, right?
Yeah.
And if somebody was saying that to me all day long, even if it's myself, I begin feeling bad, and I can't be my best self.
Right.
So if nothing else, just being aware of what we say to ourselves is very powerful.
I agree, because I do think there's a difference between joking about yourself, because it's not nice to joke about other people, and what you really say to yourself in your head.
In your head.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is that's something that just makes a huge difference. So very quickly, some people are still saying that there are issues with audio, and other people are saying that it's absolutely fine. So if you're having issues with your audio, I think it's probably your device or your signal wherever you are, and that's a little tough to obviously to navigate. Okay, so I'm just going to say hi to a few people. So Rono's saying that she went to someone at a very tough time in her life, and it was very, very helpful.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Excellent. Krista, who is hi Krista, she's on our page a lot, and she was saying that that what you were saying about fear really struck her. That it blossoms into, something that it just wasn't ever, it really motivates you, and it really changes the way that you approach things. Anne Marie said negative self-talk is not good for us. And I think that it's true, but I also think that it's sometimes it's hard to change the way you talk to yourself when it's just yourself.
It's insidious.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the one who's not really being helpful to yourself, then only hanging out with yourself is probably not going to change that. Just a thought. If somebody is mean to you, then continually hanging out with that person is not going to make you feel better. And if you're the one being mean to you, then continually talking to no one but yourself is not going to help. So if you're the one who is, in a lot of ways getting in your own way, and there can be a lot of reasons for that. There can be issues from childhood. There could be issues of feeling that that's what you should be doing, that's a balance to ever being arrogant, that, you have to suffer to get through to better times. I mean, there's a lot of
Sure.
Yeah.
Society gives a lot of messages like that. Like, buck up, grin and bear it, all of that kind of, take the tough road. All of which is sort of true, but you can only push through so many situations for so long before there's a tipping point.
Right. Teresa brought up a great point. Teresa said, denial is such a factor. People don't hesitate to go to medical personnel for help, yet they deny the need to seek therapy. I don't understand why. And that's a valid,
that's right,
it's
Teresa.
a really valid point. I mean, it is so true, because how many, if you want help with your physical working out, well, you're going to go to a personal trainer. If your car needs to get worked on, I certainly hope you're not going to jump in that engine block yourself if you're as unqualified as I am. If you need to go get medical attention, I mean, these are all things that we don't ever think about ever having an issue with. But for some reason, when you cross over into the field of what cannot be on graphs and charts, like all of a sudden, it's not an engine block of a car. I can't lift up the hood and look at it and see what the problem is. I can't look at myself and go, wow, I really need to work out. These are...
That's true. There are some ways, because so much new information is coming out about the brain, right?
Right.
So if you had a trauma and you were to think about the trauma, and I did a PET scan of your brain, the right hemisphere would be red and very much more hot and active, and the left side would be blue and more shut down, because there had not, which is why EMDR is really a very helpful technique, because it allows both to come together and open that memory and then have it processed properly. But there are more and more research data that are proving even just the conversation that we're not even the eye-to-eye, face-to-face changes the brain. So when you're in the presence of somebody who cares about you, who holds your gaze, who really is helping you...
Do you mean we're not just texting each other?
We are really talking. Wow. What a concept, right?
Well, ironically, when you say that, and I say that in a joking way, but I think that as... technology is an amazing thing, and social media has brought us all together in a lot of ways, and it allows you to kind of reach out and touch someone, but we don't have that eye-to-eye verbal conversation. When was the last time you were standing in line somewhere and struck up a conversation with a stranger? That used to happen before cell phones. That was all the time.
It's true.
All the time.
It's very true. Now everybody's...
Right, because you were just, you had nothing else to do, so you would go, oh, hey, how's your day? The person next to you, or hey, that's a great handbag. You would just start conversation with strangers, and everyone was more comfortable with that.
That's true. It's very true.
And now we go through our days in a little bubble of people we know, through a device, text or speaking, and we
Right.
don't have as much of that personal interaction. So I think, when you talk about the ability of face to face contact, eye contact, conversation, being able to change someone's brain, I think considering where we are as a society, we probably need that more than ever.
Yeah.
Just a thought on that
one.
one. Because
true.
it is, I swear, there are days when you don't even really talk to someone for most of the day. You're emailing them from work, you're on the phone with them, you're texting them. And they could live in Australia, you'd have about as much face-to-face contact as you do now.
There's families where everyone's on a different device.
Yes, at the dinner table.
The dinner table, right.
When I was growing up, we were never allowed to watch TV. Well, or, and if the phone rang, it rang. No one answered the phone
That's what mine was like.
during dinner.
Dinner is dinner. It's family time.
And no one chewed with their mouth open. Because if they did, everyone in my family would stop and look at them until they stopped.
Didn't have to say a word.
No, there was really no interaction
Yikes.
needed on that one. It was pretty obvious what was going on there. Margaret is saying that she loves the discussion and she believes that the person-to-person is so important. I agree with that completely. And Margaret was saying, Margaret Selikoff was saying that she loves to chat people up in line. And
great.
you know what?
That's wonderful.
I do too, and I still find myself doing it less and less because in so many cases, the person next to me in line is involved in their phone. And then I feel like I'm interrupting.
True. It's
know,
hard.
As opposed to before, they were just standing there. I was just standing there.
And you could talk.
We could discuss Reese's cups or something in the line at the grocery store. And I do think that there are different things, by the way, that work for different people. Frankie was saying that at one point she was going through a very tough time and she considered going to counseling, but she turned to her faith and her faith was very helpful to her.
Good.
And I think that for different people, different things are going to be helpful. And the people if you happen to have an amazing connection with someone at your church already, then that might be something that's going to be more helpful for you or someplace to start for you. And if that doesn't help, then you can always...
Yeah, the organization that I used to work would be on staff, with whom I was on staff, right? Council for Relationships. We have a clergy training track.
Okay.
So I've supervised many clergy as they were going through the training track. So they're getting some counseling experience. But I have clergy who refer to me who will see people and maybe they think that there's something else that could be beneficial to these people if he or she referred them to a therapist. But often they get all the help they need right there. So it's whatever works for you, and it's a wonderful thing. Faith is a very powerful tool.
Yes, it is. Sharon was saying that her dinner time was like that when she was younger too. And I know that we are having some issues with the chat skipping, and I don't understand why that happens sometimes and not others. And I know that's not something that we had happen on our last chat, so it's something we'll definitely look into and try to figure out if we can figure that out. Although I don't know why, because our Wi-Fi is exactly the same as it's always been, and go figure. I know that the audio is fine, so if your audio is an issue, then I think it's your signal or your device. But if it's skipping as far as the picture, then I apologize for that one, and we'll definitely work on it. Patty said people forget that the brain is a body part and part of your whole self. And that is so true.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. The body knows first.
Yeah, when they say trust your gut, by the way.
That's exactly right. The body knows first.
Definitely. Again, I know that we're having a number of issues with the freezing this evening, and I greatly apologize for that. I just want to see if there's anything that we haven't covered. And I think we've covered pretty much everything that we wanted to make sure that we cover. Okay.
Oh, there's one thing that I thought of later about the role of the therapist, or what makes a good therapist. Willingness to know when you need to get help.
Yeah.
there have been plenty of times that I've gone to a colleague and asked for their, obviously with the client's permission, right?
Right.
But I've gone to a colleague and asked for their thoughts on a particular issue or any recommendations they would have. So I think there's a vulnerability on, I feel that it's important for me to have a vulnerability that I don't know what's right for everyone, but if I am stuck, I will talk to you about it and I'll get help. So I think that's something that people should know.
Excellent.
Most therapists would do that, I think.
I agree.
Oh, good. Okay.
So I know that we are having some issues with the video skipping tonight. So we are almost at an hour, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up a few minutes early because I know it's causing a lot of frustration. But one of the things that I always want to hear after these discussions is if it was helpful to you, are there other things that you would like to have people come in and talk about? And that can be anything. I'm not saying that whatever you request we'll have someone come in for. If making macrame plant hangers is something you really want to see, then if a lot of you request it, we might be able to work on that. But, tonight we were talking about therapy and counseling. But there are a lot of things that I think a lot of us have questions about. So after we have these discussions, I always want to know what you think, who you would like to hear from. If you have questions about something else, we could bring someone else in to talk about health or nutrition or jobs or career or whatever it happens to be on that one. But I do want to thank all of you for joining us, and I apologize for the issues with the skipping. We'll definitely get that worked on. Don't forget that if you didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing, it stays on my Facebook page, and you can always go back and watch it whenever you want to. Another thing is, I do think that the audio is fine, so if you want to go back and watch it, and if you want to go back and listen and not watch, it might be a little less frustrating.
No, that's too bad.
I know. Go figure. I don't know what to do. Sue, thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Wonderful having you here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much, and we'll let you know when the next live chat is going to be. I think that you are going to absolutely love it, but I'm not going to tell you who it is yet. Good night.